Yep. So good evening, everybody. First of all, thank you so much to join us this evening. And guys, we have been discussing in Gitanjali for some time that the situation of COVID, obviously in Bombay and in India, has been going back to worse. And a lot of our members have been very anxious in terms of what do they do if something happens to them or their family members or somebody in the neighborhood. How we can sort of react, number one, and at the same time, how we can help others to be able to manage the situation. So what we thought at the core committee is that first of all, let us bring some awareness about this whole situation, and we should not get panic in the first place. We should know
ये
what to
म्यूट
do,
अनम्यूट का है
and at the same
विजी
time, uh,
आपको क्या करना है?
मेरे को अनम्यूट करना है
आप अनम्यूट
sorry. So the idea was to understand what should we do if something like this happens, and at the same time, how do we create an ecosystem between our group so that all of us can help each other. So we will basically have a conversation in two parts. We have somebody very senior with us today, Dr. Nitin Dange, who is at Lilavati and a very senior professional, and who is dealing with the situation on the ground. So Dr. Dange will speak to us about the disease in the first place and what all we need to do. And we also have Anurag, who is somebody again from Gitanjali and from Calcutta. And unfortunately, Anurag went through the whole process because he was a patient and he got impacted by COVID. And how and what did Anurag did? What are the processes that he followed? He will be sharing with us. So that's the process, and then at the end of it, we will also talk about how, as a group, we can help each other. So that is the overall agenda of the day. So I'll straight away go to Nitin ji. First of all, thank you so much, sir, to have find time for us, especially during these times. And thanks, Ravi ji, for getting Mr. Dange among us. So over to you, sir.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. I hope all of you are fine and healthy at home. So, lots have been discussed. There's lots of social media information as well as print media plus television information which is circulating all over the world. Nevertheless, the disease started in China in December, first week of December was the first case. And then we have it today in Mumbai. You can imagine there's such a chaos in our city, and we are really fighting the war at ground level even today. Having said so, the wave which was there in Italy, Spain, and America was very significantly disturbing and catastrophic. And we expected that with such a situation being happening there, it should not happen to our country. So our administration, government decided that only option which we have is a lockdown. Now, the plan, the efforts, the idea was very, very important and very necessary for the first thing which is commendable by the government. Because if you see the healthcare infrastructure in our country and the Western population, it's completely a disaster if we have more numbers in our country. So the Western countries are still coping up, are fighting for their healthcare infrastructure because this is a pandemic. It's like worse than a tsunami, and you can see the situation there, how it is still not under control in certain places. If that situation arises here, trust me, it's very difficult to control, and it will have lots of what you call damage to our society, more health-wise as well as economical-wise. Now, since the implementation of the lockdown, the concept was very clear that this is a very deadly virus. It is highly contagious, and we will not be able to have a vaccine for minimum 1 year. So if we start looking at the beginning of production of the vaccine, it would be starting from February on. So 1 year is minimum for any vaccine, however fast you do. So we are looking at a cure or a vaccine by end of this year or early Jan or February 2021. Having said so, what is the current situation of India, Maharashtra, and then coming to our city? The lockdown has been completely a success in rest of the country, except few places. And the worst affected, unfortunately, is Mumbai city. As we all know, the numbers itself tell us where we are standing today. And the graph of cases has never come down. It has never flattened even today from day one. So Maharashtra was leading. So also Mumbai was leading in the country all throughout. And we are far, far ahead of any of the places in the country. So I had suggested the government on 9th of April certain measures to cut down and flatten the curve, because if you see the lockdown, it is partially implemented or followed in our city. Why it is that the government took a stand that lockdown is the only solution, but it could not handle the problem of space in the Mumbai city. So the most important aim of lockdown was social distancing and breaking the chain. Having said so, if you see the geography and the infrastructure of Mumbai, the population is densely crowded. Without decongesting the densely crowded population, we had expected this wave to come, and we had expected that the graph will never flatten. And that's what happened, exactly what I had predicted 2 months back. So I had suggested them a very practical solution, that you decongest the congested people, you give them space. How do you provide them space? All the congested areas, look out for the open school, colleges, and all the community halls, theaters, hotels, and compulsorily lift and evacuate this population, which is densely populated, which cannot follow a lockdown even if they want to. These poor people wanted to follow the lockdown because the fear was amongst us also, amongst them also. But unfortunately, we didn't provide them space. So if you see the migrant population, 20-30%, and rest of the hutment population or the slum dwellers, they didn't have space to maintain social distance. So initially the wave started from the flights to the rich population. From the rich population, because we followed the wave and the lockdown very well, it completely reduced from the rich and the foreign going population, upper middle class, and then it went into Dharavi, Worli, and it spread to whole of the Mumbai city. Now it's the second wave which is we are expecting because of opening up of the lockdown. And what is going to happen is, till now all our societies are strictly following the rules. Now once we open up the lockdown, we are going to have this slum dwellers, our workers, our house help, our drivers, and day-to-day activity workers, which we depend on, the laborers, our business, our offices, and everything, the pillars of our life. They will be coming up with a carrier or an infective stage. They may not be symptomatic. And then poor people who are sitting at home, not we young ones, but our parents who are high risk, are going to be a risk. So I am fearing that henceforth, after lockdown, the people who are strictly following the lockdown are going to be the affected population. And I hope it does not reach to that stage. So this is what was my message for today's seminar, is how do we avoid that? Let them open the lockdown. They are going to open at one time. We cannot live without opening the lockdown because economic crisis is there. Already the slum dwellers and the day-to-day daily wages people cannot sustain. They are already on the roads. They are not getting enough income, neither food, neither water, or daily, what do you call, day-to-day living requirements or basic essentials. They are not being provided even today. So that wave is not going to happen, and the lockdown is not going to be followed in Mumbai city for sure. So that expectation of breaking the chain is not going to happen. The curve is still going up. As you know, now we have reached around 1,500 to 2,000 patients per day in Mumbai city. This is a tested population, but ideally you should multiply by 10 times. So that type of population is harboring COVID-19 positivity in our society. So now we have predicted that 1 amongst 3 are infected in Mumbai city, 1 out of 3. So this is the current situation which is already there, but the government and the administration will not declare that. So we have already crossed the stage 3 and we are already into stage 4, that is community level. So having said so, now we have to plan. So let's get what exactly is this disease and how we should cope up with it. Let's come back to the basic point and the important things. So listen to me very carefully. Coronavirus was there earlier also. Since age old, a flu was one of the coronavirus. Now, this virus has been probably a man-made from China. The truth will come a little later, but it is a very infectious virus. Why I'm saying it is an infectious virus? Because imagine it started in December and it has created a havoc all over the world in less than 2 months or 3 months. So this is what is the importance, what we have to be aware about. We are not going to be scared, but we have to be careful. That is my important message. Now, what does this virus do? Basically, it is a typical virus which has, everyone has gone through some of the other times with a sore throat, fever, cough, nasal secretions or nasal blockages. This is called as a flu. Now, flu is usually represents a viral infection of the throat or upper respiratory tract. From where we start breathing, that is the area is called as upper respiratory tract. Now, upper respiratory tract is connected to the lungs and both the lungs together and the windpipe is called as lower respiratory tract. So it first begins with the upper respiratory tract, and if the viral load is too much, if our fighting capacity is less, it will go down and cause COVID pneumonia. Okay, that COVID pneumonia is what is causing death in all the countries all over the world. So it doesn't affect your skin, it doesn't affect your brain, it doesn't affect your abdomen directly. The most important fatal or lethal complication is chest infection. It eats the lungs so that there is no place for exchange of oxygen. The oxygen keeps on going down, down, down. And at a time, without oxygen, a body cannot survive. And that's how death occurs. So this is a very serious complication, which is even today in certain patients, we are not able to control and have no treatment. Okay. So in Mumbai and Maharashtra, today's death rate of patients who have gone on ventilator is about 80%. So imagine a patient, a person, whether young or old, who requires a ventilator. Only 80 people out of 100 we have lost, and only 20% of the population have survived. That's for simple reason. The healthcare infrastructure is as not that good as we have in the US, Italy, or Spain. And secondly, the virus itself destroys the lungs. So this is not a very significant population, but it is a population which can get affected in the second wave. Why I am saying that? Because the high risk population, even today, that is the elderly, our parents, are very strictly following the lockdown and sitting at home. They are not getting exposed. But once the lockdown is open, they are at the utmost risk, and we have to plan how to prevent exposure to them, and if there is an exposure, how we can minimize the damage. So it comes with me, you, as well as our family member who are following strictly the lockdown. So what we can do, I explained to you what the virus does. Now we have to see how to prevent that virus doesn't enter, or if it enters our throat, nose, how it doesn't damage the lungs, and we get out of the infection very easily, like any flu. So first thing is prevention. The prevention, everybody is talking about increasing the immunity. But what are we doing for that? What practical things all of us should do is the most important. Our elderly's age-old teachings, our culture says that you have good enough amount of warm water all throughout. Don't, for God's sakes, drink any cold or cooler water. So, having said though, in this hot sun, temperature is quite high. It is May. We have summers. Don't follow having cold water or even normal temperature water. Try and have as much as possible warm or hot water. Okay, that is first thing. Boost your immunity by having positive attitude. Don't be scared of corona. Don't read too much about corona and the negative aspect of it. Read positive, think positive about corona. It is not going to kill us. It is a thing to worry, but not to be scared. You have to be precautious. You have to be careful. The first thing what we can prevent to get an attack is boosting your immunity, having lots of vitamin C. Every one of us know what contains vitamin C. One is the medicine, which is called as either Limcy or Celine. Various brands are available, but I suggest instead of having the tablets, the highest contents of vitamin C foods are lime. Then you have figs. The fig is the fruit. Fig fruit has a highest content, not the dried fig. Then you have other, guava is also a very high source of vitamin C. So these three ingredients, if you can inculcate in your day-to-day lifestyle, that would be boosting your immunity. Having lots of green leafy vegetables, fibrous vegetables, and citrus fruits. Citrus fruits are oranges, pineapple, other citrus fruits you can have. These are the ones which you can, sweet lime. These are the citrus fruits one can have, which also contains high level of vitamin C. If possible, I would suggest take 2 times steam inhalation, morning and evening. There is no harm. It does not cause any harm. We may get exposed to the virus and we may have some congestion, throat pain. It is okay. You just protect our nasal and throat flora, the mucosa, the surface, and enhance its immunity by making it warm. So what happens with warm temperature? I will just tell you. Our surface of the nose, the mouth, throat has cells with small hair-like structures on the top of the cell. Each cell on the surface. Now this hair-like structure are called as cilia. What these cilia do, they are very active with energy in normal population, with all of us. And what it does, any attack, whether you take some dust particle, whether you eat some foreign body, whether you inhale some smoke, what it does, it tries to push it out by activity starting and throw it out as a secretion, as a mucus. And then we spit out, or whether we sneeze and get it out. So that is a protective mechanism. These are called as cilia, hair-like things, and they keep on just moving and throwing out the unwanted things. Now, if you take cold, this cilia become less energetic. And if you take warm, if you take steam, the cilia get energy. And they propel all these viruses, bacteria, everything, and they will attack them and throw it out. That's the basic scientific justification to have warm water, steam inhalation, and not to have cold things. First thing. Second thing, the attack always is by two ways. One is a COVID positive person. He may not be symptomatic, he may be symptomatic. A COVID positive person, when he is in contact with you at a distance of 3 feet, 1 meter, he is not wearing the mask, you are wearing the mask. Still, if you come in contact with his exhaled air within 3 feet for more than 15 minutes, you have a possibility of becoming a COVID patient, positive. Why? Because you are wearing the mask, but he is around you and you are not maintaining a social distance. So he is exhaling. He may be wearing a mask, he may not be wearing a mask. If he is wearing a mask, chances are very, very less. You will get. But if he is not wearing a mask, he breathes, the virus falls on the surfaces. You touch it, then you touch your mask and you get the infection. That's why distancing is very, very important scientifically. 3 feet is that the air which is exhaled or breath out, that breathe or exhaled air, it can travel up to 3 feet. That's the reason one can contact directly from air to air, from one's breath to breath. Second contact is by contact, or second infection is by contact. So this virus is very dangerous. It forms a fomites. Fomites is nothing but it's a live virus which comes on from your nose in a positive person and falls around. Wherever he is going, he is breathing and the virus is all spreading around. This virus stays for almost 8 to 10 hours on the surface without any food. So that if you touch, your chances that you touch and you put it on the nose, you are sneezing, you are scratching, you are touching your face, eyes, that can go into your body and you will get a COVID positive, or you can become positive. So how to break this chain? So simple measure where everybody offers, now it is in the stage 3. So simple, either a 3-ply mask or N95 mask. Today we do not have protection from just a cloth or just a normal mask, because that virus is quite rampant in the society today. It is all over. We are in the community level. So I suggest that we all should wear a 3-ply mask or a N95 mask. Well, what is a 3-ply mask? If you cut upon a mask, there are 3 layers. That is called as a 3-ply mask. It is easily available and one can use that. Now, when you are using a mask, there is a very important message I want to give you. Usually, when we are using a mask, when we go out or when we are with our family or having a phone contact, at home, unless you are symptomatic, there is no need to wear a mask. When you step out, you are at risk and the other person is also at risk if you may be positive. So wearing a mask, every mask has a metal thing on the top. Okay, that's very important, that whenever you put a mask, see to it that you breathe, there should be no leakage of air. So I have a mask here. So this is what the metal thing I'm talking about on the superior side. So how do I wear the mask? So there are various types of masks. So this is the mask I'm wearing, and I put it here. So while I'm wearing, there are two strands. One goes up and one goes down. This strand should be tight. Okay, it should be tight enough. There are certain masks like the Venus one which has adjustment. The 3M also has adjustment, and one are fixed ones. The fixed ones are a little dangerous because they become loose. But the other one which can be adjustable, the string, that is what I prefer and I suggest. Now if you see here, when I'm putting the mask, this is what you have to pinch on your nose. So now I'm talking, you can see me breathless because there is no air leak from any side. Just wearing a mask does not give 100% protection. If your mask is loose like this, no use, because you will get infection from down or you can give infection to others. So these are two things very, very important. Now it's very uncomfortable to wear a mask of N95 with such things and move around. But in today's era, for next 6 months, make a habit. Get used to this. Let it be uncomfortable. But wearing a mask when you are with contact 3 feet in your office, in your day-to-day activity, you are going out, when you are in contact with people around, try and wear a mask. If you wear a mask scientifically, properly, with what I have suggested, I guarantee you that you will never get an infection. So mask is the savior today, and it is the important part of your lifestyle for till the corona gets wiped off from India or Mumbai. First message. Second message, whenever I am touching my mask for adjustment, it is very, very important you use a sanitizer. So our life henceforth till the corona wipes off has to be with mask and with sanitizer. I suggest washing hands is a little difficult process, timely process, and you need additional to dry it. Whereas the more effective, more positive, and more killing of the virus is the hand sanitizer. So all of us should make it available, carry with us hand sanitizer. Now there are various ways of carrying it, portability. We have pens, we can carry it. We have other small pouches which can be used. We have small pumps which are available. So each one of us should carry a mask as well as the sanitizer all throughout every time. Now second thing is, while we are touching the mask, don't touch from here. Once you have fixed it, the contamination goes from here to out. Now if you touch here, you breathe, if you are positive, you will spread to others. And if the other person is there, if you touch here, it will go inside you when you are breathing. So this area is very crucial. Try and avoid not touching here. So how do you adjust? Remove like this and wear like this. This is the important practical aspects while wearing a mask. Now if you see here from sides, there is airtight, from down airtight, from top airtight. When I'm talking, I'm a little breathless, you can feel. That's okay. We get used to it. And a 3N95 mask you can wear continuously for 5 to 6 hours. After that, you cannot. You will become breathless. There will be uncomfortability. So that is one thing. Now what happens? How do you dispose of, and how long you can wear a mask? This mask, one mask, I can wear it n number of times. So if I suppose I have 4 masks, This mask, I keep it for day one. I use it for whole 24 hours. While I am touching it, I use a sanitizer. When I am removing it, I am using a sanitizer. When I am wearing it again, I am touching with a sanitizer. Then only I touch my mask. This habit we have to learn cautiously, and very important habit. Having said so, this mask you can keep it dried under heat till the time rains come, and you can reuse it on the fourth day. So if there is a shortage or you want to use an N95 mask, these are all reusable. There are certain washable N95 masks also with some filter there. Those are also good. So N95 is important part of our life today along with the sanitizer. Now whenever you want to break the chain, one more important thing at home also, I suggest all of us should disinfect our houses by sodium hypochlorite. Sodium hypochlorite is a solution which is available, and the percentage you can write down is 0.5%. How to make it? It is available on the literature of the chemical, how to make it 0.5%, and that you have to wet, and whole house you have to clean at least 1 or 2 times. So this is what another suggestion is there. So to break the chain, to kill the virus, whole house has to be sanitized by sodium hypochlorite. The drawback of sodium hypochlorite is you get stains on the wood, you get stains on your doors and all, but no problem. Stains are not to worry. Life is very important. We can take care of all these things later, but this sodium hypochlorite solution is very important to disinfect all our houses. So earlier we used to use soap water and all the concentration. Soap water is also good, but the killing of virus by a soap water is not so effective as against sodium hypochlorite. So these 3 things, mask, sanitizer and sodium hypochlorite at home, is very, very important. Now when you go out or in, when you are coming from outside in today's era, the moment you come inside, you are going to touch your door handle. You are going to touch the door handle from outside, right from the bell, from the door handle. Then you from inside you close it. Directly you have to go to the washroom and take a bath. So this is a very important thing. You are going out, you are contacting so many positive patients we don't know. The air, the grocery shops, the vegetable shops, the milk places and offices now are going to be infected. So presume that every patient is positive. All these precautions you have to take, each one of us have to take, and this thing. This is preventive aspects. So I just repeat, wearing a mask when you're going outside, not to touch without using of a hand sanitizer, at home cleaning twice a day with sodium hypochlorite, and whatever you are touching from inside, when you come from outside taking a bath, the soap has to be on your body for at least half a minute. Just don't apply it and then put a shower and sit under the shower in 15 seconds. That is not going to work. So let the soap stay with the shampoo as well as the soap on the body or body wash for at least half a minute. Then only the virus dies. And the clothes whatever you are using, keep them in the soap water for at least half an hour. Then you can wash them. Now if you want to dispose of this mask, it is very, very important. Yellow bags are there, which are very important, infective, and it is better to burn them off. So BMC has provided disposable for, especially for this mask, and you have to put them into yellow bags and they will burn it in the incinerators in various places like Chembur and all. We have those facilities. Okay. So this is one preventive aspect each one of us has to follow. Now coming back to treatment part and early diagnosis. This is the second important message.
This is Rakesh. Just before we get into the treatment part, there were some questions. I just thought if
Yes.
you could address them right away,
Yes.
and then we can move to the next part. So most of it you have already sort of answered, but there were a couple of them. One was about this whole thing of washable cloth mask. You know, people are using clothes at home and they are making their own mask. Is that helpful? That was one question they have. And the other, I think I'm just trying to, there's another question basically says that exposure to sunlight from your home, will it help in protection and keeping virus away? And there
Yeah,
is
so
a
I'll just go one by one. I'm just
yeah,
on
please.
the questions. First is whether the surgical mask or cloth mask will help us. So as I said, the government has given a guidelines that it is enough to wear just a cloth or surgical mask. But let us be very practical. The virus is, as I said, though they are not accepting, it is already in the community level. Okay, the protection given by these masks for this coronavirus, as suggested by the CDC, that is Central Disease Control from US, and WHO, is not by normal masks. Either it has to be a 3-ply mask or a N95 mask. So minimum I suggest 3-ply mask is what is a surgical mask, which is 3-ply, one has to buy. I would not recommend a cloth mask. First question. Second, does oxygen level go down? Not really. It may go a little down. It is uncomfortable, but it will not go significantly down. Maybe 1 or 2% it may go down, but that's not a concern at all. Initially, you will get very uncomfortable, but as we start using it regularly, you have to get used to this mask. Okay. Third thing is exposure to sunlight from wall. Will it help? No. If you sit yourself in the sunlight, it's not going to kill the virus. The temperature for killing the virus is more than 60 degrees. So we cannot go to that degrees, so it's not going to help. So washable cloth mask, no. Minimum 3-ply mask or a surgical mask with 3-ply is what I would suggest. If you are not able to use or not comfortable N95, I would suggest you can use a 3-ply mask, not less than that. Can all masks be reused? Yes, all masks can be reused, but I told you wait for 72 hours. First day, use, keep it aside, heat it, keep on the sun, don't touch it, and fourth day you can use. So if you have 4 masks, you can reuse it on the 4th day. Okay. Any reliable brands? There are many brands which are there in the market, but N95, which is specific, 3M is the best, but its shortage is there in the market. This Venus, they have come up with a good mask, and there are few other companies which but I am very comfortable with these 2 brands, which are very good and very effective, and they are gold standard. The scientific basis how to identify N95 mask is very difficult to say, because it has to be a product specific. Google it, from which company it is, and then only purchase. If it says that it is N95 or above it, not even N94, then only you should buy it. Okay. How to consume vegetable, and is there any appropriate or practical wash? Okay. So vegetables and fruits you can wash with. There was a video which was circulating that in the basin they just blocked the outlet, put soap water and put fruits in that, wash them and get it out. That is chemical disinfection is there, viral also goes. The vegetables definitely you can wash, but the most important thing is while you are cooking you heat it, so the risk of vegetable. Only thing is contact from the vegetables to our housemaid and from them to us while purchasing from the vegetable vendor using the mask, that contact is there, and the fomite from the vegetable to house, that chain you have to break outside the house. So you have to wash them outside the house, or you see to it that you get it to the wash area without touching or exposing the rest of the house. So directly they have to go to the kitchen, into the washing area and wash them. That's very practical question and good question. I think so. Most can COVID-19.
I think yes, most of it is answered, sir. So we can move to the next.
Yeah. So one question that is very pertinent I get: can a COVID-19 patient after recovery can he fall ill with COVID? So the result, I'm just telling you, there are hardly any patients which have been become positive after turning negative. That's one attack. Very rarely that has happened, but I don't think so many patients would there. So the risk of reinfection, what I feel that's the question, is quite less.
And sir, just a request, since you are sitting alone, if you can remove the mask and speak, I think.
Yeah.
you
So
can,
I already showed you how to wear the mask. I was just putting it for simple reason.
yeah.
You can get used to it.
Oh yeah, no, that's a very valid point. I think we can now move to the next
Okay.
stage to do explain.
So one is the preventive aspect. Now I'm coming to a treatment part. Please make a note of all these things. Very, very important. First thing is each one of us should buy a pulse oximeter. Okay. Now what is a pulse oximeter? Each one of us should buy a pulse oximeter. It's a very simple device. Like you have a glucose meter for blood sugar levels. Glucometer is what we call. So this is a pulse oximeter. You can see this. Okay. It's a small piddly thing. I hope you are able to see. Can you see this? Now this pulse oximeter has pulse and oxygen levels. Now there is a button on this. This is battery operated. There are two batteries in this. You open this, on this, and there is a place for you to put your finger like this. Now, after you on this, you put your finger on this. And within seconds, you can see here the oxygen level, that is 98%, and your pulse rate, which is about 69. So these two things is the most crucial thing for early identification of asymptomatic patients who are having COVID, pneumonia, but they don't have any complaints. This pertaining disease or a term we have termed, it is called as happy hypoxia. Happy hypoxia is the patient is having COVID pneumonia. He is moving around there. He doesn't have any fever. He doesn't have any complaints. He is moving around, and there are patients who show suddenly, we do a pulse oximeter, they are infected and the saturation is about 85, below 90. These people we have to pick up from the society. So all of us should check early in the morning and once at night, twice pulse ox. If the level is below 90, you have to get evaluated. Possibly that your lungs are already been affected by the coronavirus. You'll have to get a CT scan of the chest done and get a COVID test. And simultaneously, you will require oxygen supplementation. So I have suggested, at least in my society, we have made arrangement. All the families are having a single, each family can have it, single pulse oximeter. It looks like this. This is a cover fingertip pulse oximeter. I hope you can see this.
Yeah.
And this is costing about, I will tell you, minimum it would cost somewhere around 1800 rupees, not more than that. Okay. Any brand is okay. Most important is you should purchase it and keep it. Now, who are going to check this? All of us can do the checking. It's very, very simple. No, what you call difficulty or some complex procedure is required. It's just you have to keep your fingertip and it will show the level. Now, if the levels are below 90, it is a problematic situation. And then you will have to immediately contact. You can contact me anytime, call me if there's some situation like this, or you can contact your nearby CDC. Corona Disease Center. Okay, so these are the centers which are made for such people who require oxygen supplementation. Now, today's situation, there are lots of patients who are COVID positive, but they come with happy hypoxia. You may have sometimes body ache, mild for 1-2 hours, or a mild fever, and then become normal. 2-3 days later, what happens? You suddenly become breathless. And then you realize when you do a saturation that you are already corona infected and your lung is also getting damaged and the saturation is below 90. And that is the type of population from the society we want to identify. Now, who are high risk population? I am telling you, just note down, high risk population today for corona, age above 60 years, having diabetes, hypertension, or asthma. These three diseases, diabetes, hypertension, and asthma. Many of us might be having diabetes or asthma. But if together they are high risk and above 60 years, definitely high risk. These are the population I suggest mandatory you make morning and evening, check the pulse oximeter for next 6 months. Every day. This is what I suggest. And what happens if you identify these people in the early time, you can pick up and avoid lung damage before it completes or it does a irreparable damage. So we can pick up, and these are the patients really we want to save in the society. And then we can, if that is the situation, we can keep these patients at home only, quarantine them, do a corona test at home or a nearby testing center and start on oxygen. So second thing what I suggested to all the societies, we can have a standby oxygen cylinders which are portable, which are available in majority of the branded medical stores. They will provide you with the nasal supplementation. Many of us might have used some or the other time to our family members, elderly population, the same oxygen cylinders we can use for corona. If the pulse oximeter or the saturation of oxygen is less than 90. So these are the population we have to identify, and these are the high risk population which we need to really capture, identify, early diagnosis and start treatment. Before they worsen and go into irreversible stage, we can control and prevent deaths or prevent serious fatal complications. This is the second thing. Third thing, what are the symptoms which you would like to go in for testing? Now the symptoms, first is high grade fever, means fever which is about 101, 102 for consistently 2 or 3 days, or having some breathlessness, body ache, malaise for more than 3 days, and it is not coming down, I would suggest we should get a COVID test. First thing. Second thing, any amount of breathlessness, discomfort in the chest or breathing, please get a COVID test or you get a pulse oximeter. If it is below 90, we are going for a COVID test. Now, what does the COVID test do and how we identify? It is not a blood test. It is a test which we take, we put a cotton swab, like a wick inside our throat, and we clean the throat, the healthcare worker who does the test, and that sample is sent for testing. Now this is a RT-PCR test, which is the name of the test, which is done at majority of the labs, and we are increasing the labs. Now currently we have few labs to enumerate. KM has a lab, Kasturba has a lab, then we have Reliance HN, that's South Bombay, then we have at Suburban, then we have SRL, then we have I think so Thyrocare is not allowed now, and these are the few labs which I can know which are doing testing. Now they require a prescription. Now if there are symptoms, You have to fill a form, take a prescription from any of the doctors nearby you, and they will do the testing. Asymptomatic testing is not allowed today. They will not do a test if you are not symptomatic. Now, who are the people who need to be tested again? The people who are in contact with a positive patient for more than 15 minutes, distance less than 1 meter, and you realize that person has come positive, and incidentally you have come to a contact with the patient. So a patient who has turned positive, we trace their contacts for almost 20 people. So today, suppose for example, I turn positive. My contacts I have to test. Yesterday where I had been, all 10 to 20 people who I have contacted, whether I was in close contact with them, wearing without a mask, I develop symptoms, and I've touched so many people. So if I'm at home, if I get a contact, definitely all rest should be tested. And the moment one gets symptoms, this is third suggestion which I want to give here. The moment you get symptoms of fever, sore throat today, please start wearing mask at home and remain quarantined, whether you are positive or not today, for at least 7 days. If you are having a high risk contact, definitely you should contact for 7 days. If the fever rises or stays for more than 3 days, you do a test. Even if it doesn't stay, you get fever for 3-4 days, sore throat, or you are symptomatic, start symptomatic treatment, but you quarantine from your family. That's benefited for your family. So what you do in quarantine from your family, you stay in your room, wear a mask whenever you're inside till the time you're symptomatic. Don't go out of your room. Use your own separate clothes, wash areas, and all your utensils, food habits and all. That's when you're suspected to have a COVID. Now, what is suspected to have a COVID? You might have a contact with some person distantly and you start getting infection. So before you do a test, as a prevention, you can quarantine. That's no problem. And it is beneficiary so that you don't contaminate rest of the family members. So staying quarantined in one room for 7 days is not a big deal if you are symptomatic for more than 3 days. Okay. The moment you are symptomatic, please, for God's sake, wear mask all throughout whenever you are in the family and at home. So when you are symptomatic, you are supposed to wear mask 24/7 so that you don't infect others. Clear? Any doubts here? So these are few measures which are very simple. I would suggest buy pulse oximeter. You can make available oxygen cylinders. Identify happy hypoxia, the oxygen saturation below 90 in high risk population. You immediately contact the nearby COVID center and get the testing done. Start oxygen saturation supplementation either at home if the patient is not symptomatic or not worsening, or you can admit in nearby center. Now, why I am suggesting these measures to make at local level? Because societies are the best places today to quarantine a positive person who is not symptomatic. So suppose a person gets contact and is positive without symptoms, you can quarantine these patients or person in the own society. I have suggested majority of the societies to identify few of the vacant flats and make them as quarantine places, because today it is very difficult to get a bed. If you get a bed, you are more exposed to the other positive patients. Third thing, it is difficult to take care of food and all those things because hospitals, the healthcare workers are overburdened. You cannot get a good food, good treatment in any hospital, however you might be paying, because the staffs are understaffed, the hospitals are understaffed. They will wear a PPE because you are positive, and the treatment there, it is very human that everyone will be scared of you. Everyone will treat you like you are infectious. So they will stay away from you because they have a chance of, if you are positive, I'm saying, in the hospital, they will always treat you like a patient positive. So they will take all utmost precautions. but not to worry. Even positive patients who are asymptomatic can be quarantined in a room in a house if you have enough space for social distancing, and you can watch for your symptoms and stay at home for 14 days and repeat a test after 7 days or 14 days. This is for positive patients. So the message is, don't panic if you are asymptomatic and become positive. Don't be scared. And the best way to get treatment is at home, even if you are positive. Now what happens? All our disposables, today we are not having servants, sweepers and all those things in societies. To whatever waste a positive person, if he's staying at home in the society, how do you dispose of? So we get yellow bags from outside. You keep those, all your masks, clothes which are washable, which are disposable, all those clothes which you want to throw away, not the clothes, I mean the mask and rest of the things, that you have to make it, put it in a very clearly yellow bag and give it outside, and see to it that the BMC vehicle carries it away as a yellow bag. That's very important. So you have to be ready with your society. If there some positive patient, the BMC will provide with this disposable bag, or you can buy those big disposable bags which are yellow, especially labeled for COVID. So the treatment and disposable or the incineration of these products which cannot contaminate, like the mask, tissue papers, or your goggles, or whatever you are wearing, which are disposable. What do you do with your clothes and all? You have to wash with soap water, as I said, completely drench for half an hour, and room, you have to sanitize it at least 3 times if you are positive in a day with hypochlorite, so that you don't infect rest of the house, and your house also you need to sanitize with sodium hypochlorite. The BMC does rest of the job from your house outside till the exit. They will spray with the hypochlorite if a patient turns positive. So you don't be scared of the disease, don't panic, don't worry, but you have to be careful. Prevention is the best aspect. Identification of patients by the simple measures is what is the message which I want to give. If you have any symptoms, you get testing done. Don't be worried that you're going to die or it is a really curse in the society.
So this is Rakesh. A small couple of questions that are coming on the chat, and one is about this entire prevention. Homeopathic medicine that people are sort of being prescribed by various people, and that was one question that is coming in. And the other question is about kids, because all of us have small kids, and are they sort of at higher risk?
The first question is
about homeopathic. Yeah.
The immune boosters.
Yes.
Homeopathy is a very good branch as far as the arsenic alba which they are communicating, and there's some other medicines. I would like to recommend whoever wants to take, there's no harm in that. There is no side effects as I've been told, but being an expert in allopathy, I may not be in a position to tell you about the safety of that drug. But I would not say that you don't take it. I would not recommend it, but I would say that it is not harmful. So you can go ahead with taking the homeopathy immune boosting pills.
Yeah, what about kids? Any special?
So luckily for this disease, the population below 12 is quite safe. We have not seen any mortality in the kids. We have not seen any infections below 12 as of now. So it's very, very important. Kids are quite safe that way, but prevention remains the same as we do for an adult population. If they are symptomatic, wearing a mask, using hand sanitizers whenever we are outside, not touching unnecessary, maintaining safe distance, 3 feet. Matter is closed. One more thing which I want to tell you, the most important mistake which we make, I just recollected now, is when you are wearing a mask and sitting in a population, when we eat, it's our habit that we sit together and start eating. Please stop that habit. remain at least 3 feet away from the person. And whenever you are eating, talk less. Even if you are sitting together, please don't talk very closely. See, take it that the other person is positive or you are positive and maintain the distance. Because you are not wearing a mask, this is the highest risk one can transmit infection while you are eating. Before eating, while you are removing the mask, you put sanitizer. After you remove the mask, you put sanitizer, wait, then start eating. And once you are wearing the mask again, don't touch in the center. From the sides you wear after cleaning your hands with sanitizer. So that's very, very important. So distancing has to be followed even today and henceforth 3 feet, 1 meter away. No going closing, no hugging, no going closing apart to your friends and all. Forget those things. Keep a distance of 3 feet for God's sake for rest of the time till the corona goes away. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So there are lots of questions.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions. I think we need
If there is a pulse low, the digital pressure, if the pulse is not low, the volume is low, if the blood pressure is low, it may show less. That also is emergency. Or some people might be having some blockages, then you can try it on the feet. But that's very rare. So if your pulse is not showing, that means your blood pressure is low or the artery is blocked. There's a blockage here and there's no circulation. It can happen very rarely, but then you can try other limbs or you can try the toes. Okay. Is having only diabetes and no blood pressure a risk? Yes. Diabetes above 60 years is a high risk population. Okay. So you have to monitor in these patients. So it has been observed that diabetic population is more riskier than hypertension or blood pressure population because it is an infection. Diabetes is a very good media for infection. That's why there is more risk amongst the two. If it is a person is diabetic and the other person is hypertensive, diabetics are more risk for corona infection. If there are two people staying in the same house, husband and wife, how do we quarantine? Since each one will have to be self-quarantined, how to manage household stuff. So that's a very important decision, how to manage if you only two people are there. So if you are quarantining, maintain a distance from your wife for 7 days. If you are having symptoms or you are told to quarantine, you have a contact and you have to wear masks even if you are and eating, maintaining a contact and disinfectant. These are the ways you can manage. How to manage household stuff? Sorry, it's difficult to say, but it's a very practical problem. Somebody of the two has to manage the household. Okay. So breathing techniques, various breathing techniques are there. There is a simple spirometer which is available or blowing up of balloons. If you are having some chest problems or asthmatic, or you can strengthen your breath or the lungs by just blowing up in the spirometer, which is available in the market, which is called as breathing apparatus, breathing exercise, but that's only for compromised lungs. As it is, if you do regular exercise for 45 minutes, even today in lockdown at home, and take healthy diet, control your risk factors, blood pressure, diabetes, and follow these measures, wearing a mask, social distancing, while you're going out, all these precautions, I think we can overcome this disease. Are we moving towards herd immunity? Yes, we are going to move towards the herd immunity, but the graph is very high. So I am little worried for simple reason, the viral load which is killing the patients, that chain is not being broken up. Now, I'll give an example. A person in Dharavi gets infected. They are diabetic, hypertensive, they don't know. The oxygen level falls and they come to a public hospital with oxygen level about 60, 70, and within 2 to 3 hours, they die. So these are the patients who have very high viral. The virus is very dangerous. It is a killing virus. Now, those people will contact so many other people. That's the virus I'm little scared of. That virulent virus, deadly virus. Now they have said that there are 10 strains which have been identified as of now. Now this virus doesn't have only one strain. It does not, the strain which is in America is not the same as in India. So the same virus, similar type, but it has some changes in its shape, in its size, and all those things. That's called as mutation. So it is already muted into 10 strains. Our strain is definitely less virulent because our mortality is less. But whichever virulent, the deadly one strain, which is killing, that should be stopped from contaminating or spreading into the rest of the population. So herd immunity is developing immunity by exposure to a low virulent strain. Means we are not symptomatic because that virus is not that dangerous. Plus our immunity is good. So that virus, if everyone faces, we will develop a herd immunity. So 75% of the population, if it is getting infected, that is called as herd immunity. Continuing wearing the mask will not lead to hypoxia. Don't worry about that. It will not lead to hypoxia. The body tries to, I'm not able to get N95 masks or 3-ply masks for kids. See, there are certain things which are definitely compromised in this situation for simple reason, because this is a pandemic. There are lots of practical issues. Production is a problem. Getting laborers is a problem. The amount of required masks, personal protective equipment is too low. Our infrastructure is low, but somewhere or the other, you can get masks for children and kids, and it is available. There is a difficulty, but it is available and it is possible.
Thank you, sir. We also have another gentleman in the talk today who's actually a patient and who's recovered. I think it is important that Anurag also comes in and he shares his experience.
Definitely.
And if you can continue to be with us, doctor, that will be really nice. Then we can get into a joint Q&A. Over to you, Anurag.
No, doctor, this was very, very helpful for me also. I was like, I think for me, the biggest thing that you said was that once you've contacted it, unlikely that you'll get it again.
Yes.
So I was happy to hear that.
Definitely.
But a lot of things that you said, it was kind of very resonating with me. Like the hot water. In fact, the day it kind of started exhibiting in me, I drank a lot of cold stuff that day. That very day, I was having cold coconut water and coconut because it was a very hot day and I was feeling very hot. So I drank that, and then what happened at night, I'll just give a very brief kind of thing of how my journey has been, and then it might help other people. So it was Wednesday. I know Wednesday, it was very hot, this 30th of April or 29th of April. And I drank that cold coconut water and I drank a couple of things. And then at night, I went for a walk downstairs in my building, came back, meditated, and then slept in the air condition, which I was not used to, with the blast coming on my face. Right? So that cold, essentially, then I woke up with my sinuses all jammed. And I thought maybe it's a normal flu, a normal kind of jam of the sinuses. So I kind of started taking my homeopathy and my Ayurveda. And over the next 2-3 days, I never had fever on Thursday. Then on Friday, I started getting fever, Thursday night. And it was 99.5, 100.5, but my sinuses were jammed. And then slowly it kind of reduced. So 99, 100.5, 99, 100.5, no paracetamol. I took nothing of that kind, just kind of went on. In fact, I was teaching the online meditation workshop by the Art of Living. I was doing that. And the course went on and I kind of kept getting better. And then in fact, on Sunday night, I had no fever, at all. So I thought like, okay, maybe I've crossed the kind of thing. It was a normal flu. It went away. Obviously with the symptoms of just being 99 to 105, 100.5, I couldn't go and even get a test done. Everybody said, no need to get it. You won't be able to actually get a test done without a prescription. right? And the symptoms aren't large enough. And I had literally body ache was only for like 1 day. There was like literally only 1 day, it kind of pain enough that went away, no headache, nothing at all, right? Beyond that, and the fever went down. And then from Monday, the fever it went down on Sunday night, no fever at all. I was 90, like, normal temperature. And then again on Monday, it started to climb again. It became 99.5 by lunch. And then at night, it was 100.5. And then it became 102. That's when I took the first paracetamol. And till that time, I had no cough also. No cough, nothing was there. Then when I took the first paracetamol, Crocin, then the cough kind of came in a little bit. I felt weak, and I'd taken it without eating food. So I was feeling like nausea and all that stuff. Then so I started taking Domstal, I started taking Crocin. Then the fever was stagnant at 102. It stayed put. That's when we went for the testing. This was on Tuesday. And the fever just stayed. It would like go, if I take Crocin, it come down to 100.5. And then again, within a few hours, go to 102. Right? It stayed. Then the next day, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, it went up to 103. And it stayed at 103 then. That became the new norm, and going down to 101. Right? So I was just taking Domstal. I was taking Domstal and MSET. Both. I was like between MSET and I started with Domstal and moved to MSET. I was taking Crocin, then moved to Dolo. And then I started taking one of the antibiotics. I think it was, I forget which one, which in hindsight, I should have taken azithromycin and doxycycline. I should have taken that combination, but I just took one of the other antibiotics. And then the fever just stayed at 102, 103, just stayed at 103. And then the test results came very late because I went to Breach Candy for the testing, and then they sent it to SR Labs. So by the time I went on Tuesday in the afternoon, the lab had already gone. So it went only on Wednesday. And then on Friday, the BMC directly called my wife. I'd not given her number. I hadn't given anything. So I'd given no number, nothing. But they called her. Somehow they found the number and they called her saying I'm COVID positive. And I had in the meantime quarantined right from day one. The day I had my sinus, I quarantined. And the quarantine, the mistake I think we made in quarantine was like, even though I was in the room, my food would still be kept outside sometimes. Sometimes my wife would come in with a mask and take the food out. So I think that also we got to kind of clean up, where it's better to just have a plate and just have like, your own tumbler and your own plate, and leave your plate outside. They put the food, bring it in, and you can wash it. That's probably the better way. So that was the mistake I think that we made. But I quarantined myself. So from 1st May, technically I quarantined myself. And 8th May is when I went to the hospital. Then the moment I got this thing that I'm positive, we were debating whether to go to the hospital or not to go to the hospital. Fortunately, I got a room at Wockhardt, and I got my own personal room. So I went to the hospital. In hindsight, it was a good decision, not because, and all through this while I got the oximeter immediately, and my oxygen levels have always been 97, 98. So oxygen levels never fell below like 95, 96 at any point of time through this fever. I just feel at the hospital, it was just easier because then the medicines and what to take, what not to take. Out here, I was being my own doctor, calling up my local doctor, never knew what to do, what not to do. I wasn't being able to sleep then at night because of the cough. It started increasing. So I wanted a cough syrup, so those kind of basic stuff was taken care of at the hospital very easily, and I knew exactly, they knew what was going on, right? And like, the doctor, Kedar was there. He just told me, don't worry, it's fine. You're healthy, hale, unlikely that anything else will happen to you. And my oxygen level all throughout, one day it dropped to 94 and he got a little concerned, but it was 90, like literally it was 95 always, and probably because of the pranayama and the meditation that I do. Because it was very high. I mean, I could actually sense it, that it's spreading from here, it's spreading. I could feel it, and then I could feel the revival also coming back, and I could feel it kind of go out. And yeah, so I was there on Friday. I went to the hospital. They got me in, they take me to the ICU, check my vitals, everything is good. They put me in the room. They start, no saline, nothing of that kind. They're just giving me through the drip, they're giving me only vitamins. And basic Bico-Zinc, Selin, the lozenge, cough lozenge, their cough syrup, erythromycin, not azithromycin out here. They gave me hydrochloroquine like for 2 days. Then they thought I might be getting an allergy because of that, so they kind of stopped that. And Dolo for fever. And like, I took that for Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. And then Sunday I stopped it. I said, it's too much for me. And my fever, it dropped to 99. Then Sunday it kind of came down further. It was normal. And then from Monday, there was no fever even without the paracetamol. And then that's what, so Monday did that. Monday they took the swab test on Monday. Tuesday the result came and they literally said you can leave on Tuesday. My uncle was like, no, you stay in the hospital for a few days. Just because, you never know, it'll happen, relapse and all that stuff. There's just that fear mongering that was going on. So I hated keeping our bed occupied. But, at that point, I never had a voice to kind of take a decision. And then I just kind of left on Friday, but I'm in quarantine right now in a hotel. I'm in a quarantine. I didn't go back home because I was told that I could still spread. Those dead cells could still be there in my system. And plus, I could also get it again in case I'm not careful because my antibodies are not yet fully developed. And so I don't know whether it's completely right, wrong. So I said, forget it. I'm just going to be in a hotel and quarantine myself. And I'm going to be here till I think May 29th or May 30th. I'm not sure exactly. But that's been my journey. My wife, there was my wife, my daughter, who's 7 years old, and then my Moshi, who's essentially a maid. She's around 60, 65. None of them actually got, today they've got the quarantine is over, technically, the 14-day quarantine since I left home. And before that also, there was a 1-week quarantine period. And none of them have got any of the symptoms or any of the thing. My Moshi panicked a little bit and she felt like, her whole system is kind of cramped up. So we made her rest and kind of gave her Crocin and she was fine. But barring that, there'd be no symptoms or no kind of effect. Obviously, they were not tested. Nobody else I know that I came in touch with has got it as well. And yeah, and that's my journey. I think my biggest lesson was that, there's more social pressure and social anxiety around it than facts. Because another friend of mine got it, and I asked him, did you go out? And he said, nothing like that. And around 2 months I've been in my society and not moved out. And he was so panicking about the whole thing. He was like, what do I do? How do I go? And so I was giving him this basics like, buy a Dolo, buy this thing, do this thing, get a cough syrup. So I just think the basics are known to people. Like, that if you start getting the infection, don't wait till you get more high fever before you start taking the medicines. Yeah. If you're getting a sore throat, immediately, like today what you said, drink warm water, right? The moment you get a sore throat, just take your azithromycin. Like, there's no point waiting because it'll just stop the infection from happening. And, why delay in that, So just those basics, if I had known, I'd probably start the antibiotic day 1, instead of waiting. And I probably wouldn't have even had any other major symptom. And I think at the end of the day, for me, the biggest lesson was not to panic, right? Not to assume that everybody else will get it. And then, well, how do we deal with it, right? Stay cool and stay calm and just know it's another virus. Yes, it has other side effects and it has a potentiality that can be terminal. But if you're fairly hale and hearty, the likelihood of you getting a very serious kind of infection is low, and you got to and if you kind of don't give in to your mind, then the likelihood of you actually moving on is higher, right? And for me, clearly my pranayama and meditation really helped because I was very hyper aware of what was going on within me. And whenever the mind would kind of go in this, what do I do? What do I do? It was like, forget it. Just kind of move on. Life is going to take care of it and kind of, so that envelope of grace and envelope of, life was there, which made a huge impact, to me and the people around me. But yes, that's it. It was interesting. It's more mental, I think, than physical, quite frankly. I've had worse flus before.
Yeah.
I've had worse flus before, and it's like, this is nothing compared to what I went through. Like the physical dimension was nothing. There was no breathlessness, nothing. The physical dimensions were nothing compared to the mental agony that followed it, and the anxiety of everybody else, and like, oh God, like just to deal with that whole like, oh gosh, like, you know, you've got COVID or what to do. So I'm like, okay, now I'm a COVID survivor. You know, I've got antibodies. I can do whatever I want. It's like, so I think I got away cheaply, but I think that is the biggest pressure, that people are so scared of it. You know, they're so scared of, what do I do if I get it? Dude, if you get it, just face it. Most of us are healthy, you know, and the people who are not healthy and people who've got some other disease, just stay indoors. Don't come out, you know, and don't increase your risk. That's it, you know. But if you get it, you get it. I mean, what do? You deal with it, you know. And most of the times, I mean, even the BMC said you don't have to go to the hospital. You can just stay at home. I was lucky to get a room, and so I went. Yeah, I survived. I mean, like, you know, call it grace, call it high immunity, call it whatever. But it's been fun, actually. It's been interesting, very learning, and I'm glad I can be of help to others. I never thought I'd be giving like a talk like this to some people, but I'm whichever way I can be helpful, I'm grateful. And
thanks, Anurag. Thank you so much. And